All right, in this video, I'm gonna go over the amazing progress my students made in my new portrait course. I'm gonna break down exactly what they improved at and the strategies that I used to teach them. All right, welcome to Paint Coach. My name is Chris Fornatero, and I'm here to help simplify oil painting so that you can get better, faster. I wanna start off by just saying that portrait painting is tough. It's really hard and difficult to learn, especially on your own. I never had a teacher or took a course in portrait painting. I had to just learn from whatever information I could get. I bought so many tutorials and DVDs and videos and books. And I did manage to figure out how portraits work. It just took me a very long time, which is why I'm a little jealous of the improvement a lot of my students made in my most recent portrait course. I'll be honest, there's never been a 6-day period where I made that much of improvement. Maybe more like 6 months. Like I had no real structure to my learning. But having gone through that myself and having taught hundreds of students portrait painting, I've been able to boil down portrait painting into 4 key ideas. Like these are the ideas that I feel like if you get a hold of, you're gonna have the biggest breakthrough and see the biggest results. Now, like any art form, the amount that you can learn about portrait painting is endless. I will never stop learning new things about portrait painting. But these 4 key ideas I feel like are the best place to start and to look for answers, which is why I built this portrait course. I constructed it around these 4 key ideas. So let's take a look at the students' before and after paintings, and I'm gonna explain how they got better in these 4 key areas. So the first idea is understanding values and value shapes. Now, value is how light or dark a color is. So I'm going to put all of this into black and white. So the first thing I see as like the biggest difference is they really established a better darkest dark in that final one. You can see if I put that dark here, how much darker it is than what they originally had. Now, that's gonna have an effect on all the other values. It's not just about getting the right value, it's about getting the right value relationships. So by making that darker, they'd be able to make this cheek darker, and then they'd be able to make this nose darker. So when it does come time to put in highlights, like the highlight in the nose here, it's gonna read a lot brighter because the relationship to the darks around it is more accurate. Also, take a look at this area right here on the face. It's all one value, so there's no real form to it. Change in values is how you're going to create form. You can see here there's a big value shift from there all the way down to here. It gets darker as it goes down and underneath the jaw and chin. You know, having a different range of values is creating form in that part of the face. So understanding values and value relationships is the first thing. The second thing is actually tied a lot into that. It's still dealing with values. So I'm gonna keep things in black and white, and I'm gonna talk about the planes of the face. Now, everybody's face is different, but there's always going to be some degree of these planes in the face. You know, sometimes it's easier to see the planes in someone's face, sometimes it's not, but there's always going to be some degree of these in the face. So understanding them and knowing them is going to help you see so much more when you look at a face. Again, with this area right here, I talked about how it looked flat and didn't have form because of the value shifts. So understanding the planes and where there are changes in planes on the face is going to help you identify those changes in values. Because you can see on the model here, this plane change, it gets a little darker. And they made sure to have that change. It's very subtle and it's gradual, but it's still there and it's creating form in the face. All right, that was the second idea. Let's move on to the third idea. And that is understanding and identifying the overall spherical form of the head. So I drew out a little flesh tone sphere over here to illustrate what I'm talking about. And you can just see how much more of a sphere this face has than the one before it. I mean, just this shadow that's happening under here and the way it comes up and over is creating so much form. Over here, there's nothing really happening there. And also this highlight that comes down the middle of the face and continues from, you know, the top of the eyebrow into the cheek and then even down into the chin. You know, you can see that happening right here. In this one, I don't really see any of that happening right there. I'm just not getting that big spherical structure. All right, and the last thing that they did was they really took time to portray the form of the individual features. Just like how I was explaining with the planes of the head, that even though everybody's face is different, they're still gonna have some degree of those planes. The same goes for the features. Even though everyone's eyes, nose, and mouth looks different, there are certain things about the features that tend to be consistent with everybody. One quick example here is the nose. I brought back our little plain head model to explain this, but a lot of times the nose can be broken down into 4 basic planes. You got, the bridge of the nose there, and then you got these 2 side planes of the nose, and then the bottom plane under here of the nose. And you can see that these side planes are darker than the top plane there. And it's very subtle, but they did a really good job of doing that in this one. This is definitely lighter, and then the side planes are slightly darker. And they even got this bottom plane. See this little shadow happening under the nose? Getting those incorrect is just gonna add so much form and really shape and sculpt the nose. You see the nose in this one, those planes really aren't defined that much, especially the bottom of the nose. They don't have that dark shadow to bring it out from the face and really give it a lot of form. So those are the 4 main ideas or concepts that if you get a good grasp on, you're gonna see big improvement in your portrait paintings. So oil painting is a pretty complex skill to learn. And the best way to learn a complex skill is to break it down into sub-skills and focus on one sub-skill at a time. And that's what I did with this course. I broke it down so the student just focuses on one of those key aspects at a time. So for example, to practice values and being able to see value relationships better, I had them do an exercise where they painted a version of the reference photo that I'd put into Photoshop and made black and white with very clear cut out value shapes. Because this is pretty much an exaggeration of how I want them to think and to see values. And having done this exercise where the value shapes were exaggerated and very obvious, made it easier for when they got to the final portrait to see those values in a regular photo. Now to help them with the planes of the face, I actually had them paint that head model in black and white, and I made sure the head model was lit the exact same as the model they were going through the course with. And again, having done this exaggerated example exercise made it so much easier for them to pick up and to see the planes in their photo reference. This was a lot of people's favorite exercise, by the way. And once you kind of figure out the planes and understand what's going on, when you're talking to people in real life, you'll kind of be in your mind just being like, oh, there's a plane there. Oh, I see that light's catching that plane. Oh, they got that plane right there. So it's really shifting the way you look at a face. Now for the overall spherical form of the head, I had them do a very small, very quick study of the head with a photo that was blurred. I didn't want them to focus on features or try and get an accurate likeness. I wanted them just to focus on the big shapes and the big values and the big colors. And again, these were very small, about like 5 inches big. But this was a way for them to have kind of a test run with the portrait and to see what areas they might stumble with, and to test out colors. And again, to get that big overall spherical shape. And then lastly, for the features, I went through the eyes, the nose, and the mouth in a lecture pointing out the planes of each one, how each one is formed, using references from great master oil painters and how they were able to construct and identify the form of the features. And they did a study of each of the features separately. So you can imagine, by the time they got to the final painting, they were so prepped and ready to go to paint the best portrait they could. Now I do go over other things in the course other than these 4 concepts. I talk about my materials, toning my canvas. I talk about drawing, color mixing, my paint thickness. And also a really cool aspect of the course is that even though it's not live, you can go through it at whatever speed that you like, it's never gonna go away. But in every section, I wanted to make sure to have videos where I critique the students' work, because I've always felt that was one of the most valuable aspects of being in a class with other students, is that you can learn so much from seeing other students' work, seeing what they did well, what they could improve. Because most of the time, whatever mistakes are happening with your portrait, they're happening with others. And you can learn so much from looking at other people's work. But now, my absolute favorite part of the course is that you can go through it 3 times. There are 3 models that you can choose from. So once you've gone through the course with one, you can go through it again with another and then another. It was very important to me to make sure that the course emphasizes how important practice is. It's not just a one and done course. It's something I want you to be able to return to over and over again. So if you want to check out the course, the link to it is in the description below. All right, I'm Chris Fornatero here telling you to go get painting.